Hi, welcome to this training on how to use Google Jamboards. Why would we want to use Google Jamboards to start with? Well, think about how you would normally use a flip chart when you're training or doing a Che lesson in the field. And Google Jamboards is one of three ways we'll discuss, maybe four, on how you can simulate a flip chart type of an environment virtually. So we want to start out by talking about Google Jamboards. And the fact of the matter is if you have a Google Drive or if you have a Google account, you have access to Google Drive, and Jamboards and drawings can be created from your Google Drive, and they will automatically be saved in your Google Drive. So for an example, here you'll notice this is my Google Drive, and I have some folders created for specific trainings. For example, we did a virtual training in July, and I created a special folder for the Google drawings that we would use, for the Google Jamboards we would use, for Google Forms that we would use in that training. And I would encourage you to do that too as a best practice. However, it's not intuitive how you create a Google Jamboard from Google Drive. I want to show you that first of all. Folder we could create for storing your lessons for a particular training, but you also have this right here where it says more. If you come down to more, you will see there are a list of options there. For example, Google Forms, Google Drawings, and down here you see Google Jamboard. So to create a Google Jamboard, all you need to do is click on that Google Jamboard and it will create a blank Jamboard for you. So let's look at some of what we did in our virtual training. These are Google Jamboards that I created. And again, the intention was once you break team up into breakout rooms for a training, you might want to have each team have their own Jamboard where they can capture their thoughts and for the assignment. And those will be saved in the Jamboard. So for example, we created a Jamboard for Google diseases, for farming, for good health lesson, for the worldview and development, sometimes called the problem tree. And we're going to take a look at one in particular, and we're going to look at the farming Jamboard, and we want to take a look at the tools that are available. First of all, we'll start with the menu bar up here at the top, the undo button. If you have made some edits, you can click a redo to recover what you had done previously. There's also zoom, which allows you to zoom in closer or to zoom out, so you see this Jamboard in a larger size. There's background. If you click on background, you have a choice of several different patterns you could select. For example, we'll just take one that makes it look like quad rule paper, or you can leave it blank. You can also click on clear frame, which we won't do right now because that will clear this entire sheet that we're looking at right now. So imagine that we are looking at this and have a team assignments in a breakout room in Zoom where we want to have three teams. So what we did was in advance, we created three different pages. Now this up here shows you how many pages there are in this Jamboard. Right now you might be able to read that. It says 1/3. So we're looking at the first of three sheets in this Jamboard. To maneuver to the next one, we just move over here where it says next frame, click on next frame, and it slides us over to Team 2's Jamboard. One more would click us over to Team 3's Jamboard. Now you notice this exercise was set up so that all three teams would be working on the same thing. Then we would come back together and we would compare results. Also over here at the far right hand, I should mention, if you need to create more than three, all you need to do to create more is just click on the right one and it will create a blank frame. And then you can create more information here. Or teams could use this for spillover if they have more information than they could fit on their assigned page. But if we look at these three menu options here, you'll notice several things. We can rename this Jamboard, and this is where you do the naming. It was called the Farming Jamboard Combined. And the reason we called it combined is because it's the Jamboard for all three teams. Once this is done, you can download it as a PDF, and you could then send that PDF to attendees of the class so they've got a record of everything that was discussed by all three teams. You can save this frame, this particular page, in this case page 1 of 4 now, and it will save it as a JPEG that you could also mail to someone. If you want to remove this page, you would click on this one that has the garbage can for remove. I can make a copy of it, which is useful when you're doing 3 different slides or 4 different slides that are identical except for the team name. For example, if I said make a copy of this, I could make one of these and call it for team 4. Those are the main things you need to recognize here. Also notice this share button up here at the very top. It's very important. This allows you to decide what sharing permissions you want to have. So again, if you have people that are going to be working on this in a team breakout, you want to make sure that it is set so that anyone on the internet with this link can edit. Now you can change that and make it view only, but then what you would ultimately do is you'd want to copy this link, and when you are in your training session, paste this link. Notice the link is up here at the top for this Jamboard, and this will be again for all 3 teams, so there's only one URL that they all need to access their Jamboard. You'd copy this by clicking copy link. It'll bring up a link. It'll say it's copied. Then all I have to do is go to Zoom, paste that link into the chat box, and then people can double click that link and they would immediately be brought right into this Jamboard. Let's take a look now at the left side tools. First of all is this one that's called Pin. I'm going to go to page 4 here just because I don't want to mess up my existing page. And if I click on Pin, I'm going to notice the circle around the pin gets dark. I can then draw and squiggle on this. If I want to erase it, if I want to erase what I just drew, I have an eraser. And unfortunately, you have to kind of do the whole thing to erase it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to delete this page shortly anyway. There's also a select. So again, let me go back to another one of these pages. If I want to select, for example, notice this, the instructions already pre-put here. It says observations, type observations in the box to the right. So if I double click that box, I can start making observations. I could say there is a long rainy season. And I would also then say maybe 2 is there is a dry spell during the summer. And 3, crop harvests tend to clump together, meaning there are times of the year when they don't have anything that they can harvest. That then replaces what was in this box, and I can size this box by clicking on the bottom right-hand corner and dragging it to make it larger or smaller. Now, you can't just drag it to make it wider. You have to click on the corners and drag the whole thing, and it will size the whole box at one time and keep it proportional. This little box right here says if I want to edit it, I can edit. If I want to duplicate this, I can duplicate it. Or if I want to delete this, they call these sticky notes, I could delete it. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. Let's come back now and say, suppose I want to create another sticky note to capture an observation. What do I do to create a sticky note? Well, I can click on this little box on the left-hand side that has, it looks like a text box. And I can say this is a sticky note. And it will set that page, set that sticky note onto my page. Once that's done, I just click somewhere else. I can click and drag the sticky note wherever I want it to be. I can size it like I could any other sticky note. If I want to edit it, I might edit it, and I might want to change the color of the background for the sticky note for some reason. Okay, so that's how you create sticky notes. The other thing you can do is you can just, copy one that's already here. Like I said, you can duplicate it and then just change what's in the duplicated box. For example, see how that duplicated the one that was there already. I'm going to delete that now. The other thing you can do is you can insert images. You can upload an image from your hard drive if you have one that you want to upload, but you can also upload from Google Drive. You can just take a photo with your web camera if you want to have a photo of yourself, or you want to have your participants take a photo of themselves. You can also click on Google Image Search, in which case it will search Google. And let's just say that for some reason or another, we want an image of a tiger. And it will go out and it will do a search on Google for images of tigers. I find one that I want, maybe it's this one. And it will insert that picture into my Jamboard. Now, why might I want to use that? And again, I can size that and move it around wherever I want it. Maybe I'm doing a lesson on good health, and we're talking about the importance of man's relationship with his environment. I might ask a team in one breakout room to find pictures that would illustrate man living in harmony with his environment. So they could take pictures of trashy rivers or of a beautiful garden, someone taking good care of a field, and they could put that onto a Jamboard. For somebody else that's talking about living at peace with your neighbor, it could be a photo of people working together on a project that might be useful. If it's talking about peace with yourself, it could be showing pictures of happy people or somebody who's crying if you want them to show instances where somebody is not at peace and in harmony with themselves. So those kinds of things can be done. I'm going to delete this image. I'm going to delete this sticky note. Now, the other thing that you can do here, you have one more tool down here. That is this one right there. And what that does, once you click on that, it gives you a kind of a little highlight like this that you can use to draw attention to where you're at on a page. So if you want to draw focus to this note, you could say, let's take a look at this sticky note right here. Okay, and then I might want to enlarge that. Go back over to my select tool, click on it, drag the box. So it's big enough that we could read it together. And that's pretty much Google Jamboards. Now, there are limitations to Jamboards that you need to be aware of. For example, each sticky note has a maximum of 250 characters that you can type into a sticky note. That's why it's important for the people that are going to be in breakout rooms to know how to create more sticky notes. And Jamboards are actually really great for breakout rooms because, like I said earlier, each group can have their own page or pages, but still the facilitator only has one URL that they would need to copy and paste into the chat box rather than a separate URL for each breakout room. Another downside, as I said, there's no control over the size of the fonts. The only way you can make things bigger or smaller is to drag like this. And that is somewhat of a downside to Google Jamboards. If you're using it for Google Breakout or Zoom breakout rooms, I think it's good to prepare each of these slides in advance. For example, before our training, I inserted this document, this image from the Che lesson. I created pages I knew I wanted to have 3 breakout rooms. I created 3 pages, one for team 1, one for team 2, one for team 3. And I tried to put some instructions, observations, type in the box to the right, which would mean this box right here. And down here, questions to answer, type questions that might be raised or that you might ask of the village. And they would type those answers into this sticky box. The advantage as a facilitator is, first of all, only having one URL, but it's real easy at the end of the breakout rooms to come into that one URL and you can see each team's responses simply by clicking on the right or the left arrow to page back and forth between the different breakout room assignments. Extra pages can be added. You can have up to 20 pages in any given Jamboard. So you might actually use one Jamboard to cover several lessons, but just have people go to different pages. For example, if you had 3 more pages for the next lesson, you could say, all right, team 1, you go to page 4, team 2, go to page 5, team 3, go to page 6. And you'd still have just the one URL that they would be able to use for those 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different lessons. And then when you're all done, save it as a PDF and presto, they've got the results of the breakout rooms for 4 or 5 lessons all in one Google Jamboard. So they're very simple. Google Drive automatically saves them just like it does any document that you're creating in Google. And that's about it for Google Jamboards. Very useful tool. You could even use them for a full group discussion as opposed to using the Zoom whiteboards, which have some rather significant limitations to them. So personally, I like Jamboards better than using the whiteboard in Zoom, but that's my preference. I would encourage you, as always, to play with Jamboards, get comfortable with it yourself, and then you'll feel a lot better helping people if they have issues in a breakout room. But I think you'll find that you like Jamboards. They're pretty clean, pretty simple. So that's it for Google Jamboards. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, you can email me at galen@medam.org. That's galen@med-amb.org. Thank you.